Hello, dreamers and citizens of the Polish Empire. Welcome back to episode 2 of Democraciv Question Period. This week was marked by mayoral elections and decisions to be made, like what technology to research next and what pantheon to choose. We also saw some discussions around the morality of stealing a worker from our hostile neighboring city-state Jerusalem. But first, let's look at the state of the Civ. Turn 5 is about discovering the unknown. While the warriors to the east have their view blocked by the mountain range on their flank, the scouts to the west spy our first neighbor, an as-yet unknown city-state. Also of note, will we one day have a Polish wine? We receive 8 faith from Jerusalem. A pantheon is a distinct possibility. Also of note is that Jerusalem is a hostile neighbor. Is this a sign of future religious wars? Will Jerusalem become a pawn to the Polish Empire or an integral ally in our mission to civilize the world? Jerusalem seems to be quite a stony city on the shores of the ocean. The Polish scout isn't sure what to make of this pious people in their huts and talking of gods. All he knows is they are shooing him on his way and complaining that he's taking too long. The warriors to the east sweep through the ancient ruins and discover treasure. We've gained 80 gold to our treasury. The warriors also discover a mountain pass to the east. This will no doubt be a strategic location that the Polish Empire may want to settle, if only for the security of the empire. I'm sure the government and citizens will begin discussing settle locations much more as we explore more of the nearby map. Turn 7 begins and offers up a few decisions to be made. We need to choose a new research topic, having discovered pottery, and we also need to choose a pantheon. The Reddit will be alive with the politics of these choices. And that is the state of the Civ. The debate of what technology we will research seems to have come down to researching animal husbandry or writing. The debate focuses on how much benefit an early library could be or if it would fit in the build order. While animal husbandry seems to have more support at the moment, we'll see next week which side of the debate won out. A much more heated debate has centered around the choice of pantheon. With no clear-cut pantheon choice that can be favored over all the rest, we are left with subpar choices. Should we confine ourselves to tundra expansions and go for Dance of the Aurora? Or do we go with oral traditions or Earth Mother and hope for resources to suit our choices? Or do we go with the safe but mediocre God King? No matter what we choose, there may be some second guessing after we see more of the map. But this choice must be made before the next turn. This has also brought up the question of if we should play tall or as originally planned, or if we should instead change gears and play wide instead. A wide game would allow us to go with a riskier pick of Oral Traditions or Earth Mother or another pantheon, with the intention of spamming settlers to snag all the locations that can benefit. Also, how would that strategy play out in terms of social policies? We could always lock in the Tradition Opener before committing through the Liberty Opener. This additional culture can very often get us through the Liberty tree faster than just going straight for Liberty, especially if we are getting additional culture from a pantheon. No matter what we choose, there will be many more interesting decisions. Speaking of interesting decisions, the other big news of the week was the conclusion of the mayoral elections. The Empire has now selected the mayors of both the capital, really, something, and the future second city. Mr-Undergroud is now the mayor of our capital city, with Nuktuuk being selected as the mayor of the second city. It was a thrilling election that came down to just a single vote separating the two candidates. After the election, which was live streamed, we interviewed both the winners to get their first reactions. Here are a few highlights. Okay, so what are your first impressions of the elections? What are your reactions to being elected, and how close of a race that was? Because that was a really close race. You guys were both. I think Nuke, you had the lead through most of the race or most of the voting, vote counting, and Mr-Undergroud, you overtook him right at the last second to take command of the capital, we should say. So what are your reactions?
That was close, man. I was sweating. I knew I had lost when we saw the when I saw the seven.
I wasn't really expecting it to be this close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I had quite a lot of support from a bunch of people that how do I say it? That were really interested in on how policies and how we should govern this.
Yeah, basically, I was saying the posts on our Civ, it sort of brought a lot of people onto the Reddit and onto this project, and it influenced this whole election a lot. I found. So, what are your thoughts on that?
That post on our Civ caused a lot of people who got into this Democraciv subreddit to get really into it and join it. I was one of those people that actually helped bring extra people that were very helpful to this. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Were you guys were either of you endorsed by some political parties? Do you think you got any political support from the political process or the political parties that have been forming?
I was endorsed by the PCLU, but I'm currently interim president of the Liberal Party because we haven't really been able to run primaries yet. So
Okay.
I think that influenced it, but I don't think it was a deciding factor. They're not developed enough yet.
Because you're the president of the Liberal Party, Nuke, is that going to be? Are you going to be representing them moving forward as a candidate for your future elections, your future political career?
Well, in the future we'll be holding like primaries to decide to endorse candidates and such. But as for my membership influencing the running of the city, it won't that much. Um, because there's only about 6 of us that are actually official members, and generally we agree.
Let's start by at least, can we refresh everyone on your stances, just for anyone who's still watching?
For how I plan on running as mayorship of the capital, I want to maintain a direct, balanced uh, infrastructure infrastructure in the capital by being ahead as much as possible in about every aspect while taking into account the empirical status of the empire.
What about you, Nook? Your stances?
Um, well, obviously it's going to be a bit different when working with the second city. But I tend to focus more on production. But a lot of people, they tend to have a city where there's, say, just a lot of food and not a lot of production, and they end up with these high population cities that don't have any actual basis in being able to build units or buildings or wonders or any of those important. And that good balance between a good population city and high hammers to get, being able to have productive cities to advance us toward victory. We are on Immortal, so we need all of it.
Do you have any opinions on what pantheon we should use for our, when we get our first pantheon choice?
For me, I say God King all the way, because we don't really have a lot of one resource except Tundra, and I've already listed out reasons why Dance of the Aurora is a bad idea, mostly because to work that, we have to work lone Tundra tiles, and then maybe hills. That's like 3 hills, so 3 faith. And then if we want to get any more extra from the Pantheon, then we have to work really crappy tiles, which would harm our city more. I think God King is an all-around, it's a good starter one. It's not going to provide any benefits in the long run, but it'll help us in the short term, help us get our workers, settlers, scouts out faster, and just give us a big advantage.
Underground, do you have any inputs?
When it comes to a pantheon, I really have been a hard time thinking about it, but I have to agree with him about choosing God King because I believe we really need that boost for a very early game due to us having those few Tundra tiles in our borders.
Okay, now I think this question can only apply to Nook because of the fact that it's going to be applied to the second city. We haven't actually found our second city, right? Correct. And do you have, based on the map we see right now, do you have any?
Well, so from what I can tell from the map, the spot I was thinking about earlier was there is a nice hill with some deer on it. No, not deer. There's a. I'm not sure if that's a map. I can't tell on strategic view, but there are some firs south of Jerusalem, and that would probably be the best place to settle at the moment that I can see, because there's no resources off to the southeast, and we haven't explored north. But we really, before we can make that decision, we need to have more information. We have our scout explore more.
You're really, Nuke, you're really going to be watching exploration and kind of figuring out where your city location's going to be much more than I think most people in that most citizens. You're going to have much more of a need to want to have a good location, I think, just so that you have a good city that you can run. Is that sort of something that's kind of in the back of your mind at the moment?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always hope to get to find a good place to settle. And there, to be honest, our start is kind of crappy.
Yeah.
So I think hills would be useful. I think we should settle down south though, where it's warmer, more grassland, and less tundra. Definitely. So I think we should explore south of the Wine, and go from there.
How do you think you want to communicate with the ministry, since they are still going to be in a way above in the chain of command?
Oh, as a mayor?
Yes, as a mayor.
Early game, I believe we'll just have to do small talk between the ministry and the individual mayors on terms like next to policies on that, give their advice or ideas. But very late game, or when we eventually have more and more cities, like a very medium to large amount, we're probably gonna have to. I believe we probably have to set up an extra cabinet in our government to equalize the power we have.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that first point. Like early game, I think just open talk between the ministers and the mayors that would serve to eke out any problems or suggestions they have. As a mayor, I am going to work with the ministry closely, because we are one nation, and the ministry is like the federal branch, and we need to stay true to the federal part of it, because that's the part that wins. But late game, I think, yeah, something like the judicial branch that's been proposed is going to be necessary to work out problems and help decide on social policies and stuff, that kind of thing.
We'd like to congratulate both Mr-Underground and Nuktuuk on their electoral victories and wish them luck managing their cities. That brings us to the end of our show this week. I'd like to leave you with a question of the week that we as citizens can discuss in the comments or on the Reddit. This week's question: having just completed pottery, when should we direct our hammers to our first shrine? Should this be the priority after the monument is complete? Or should we be building a granary instead? Should we interrupt the monument and finish the shrine instead? I look forward to seeing your thoughts in this discussion. See you all next week.